Okay, thank you. So we are to have four speakers for the session. So we have John, we have Richard, we have Bukola, and we have Folake. Folake has not been able to join yet. Folake is in the US. I'm not sure the time differences and all of that. So I've just dropped out a note to see if she's able to join. So hopefully during the course of this session, she'll be able to join us. Please note that this session is recorded. Also note that everything we'll be sharing on this call, our own personal opinion. We are not representing any firm, we're not representing any organization in this chat. So it's just our personal opinion, and we're just basically going to be sharing our own sort of story. Now, if I go to you, Richard, could you quickly introduce yourself to us, a brief introduction about what you do and all of that? And then after you will go to Bukola and then to John, and then we'll make a start with the program.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So my name is Richard. I am an audit manager in PwC UK. A bit of a background for me is as an undergrad, I studied pure industrial chemistry, and then moved on to accounting, worked in KPMG for a bit, and then moved over to the UK. So for over, say, 8 years, I have been working in audits around banking and capital markets, have a bit of experience on insurance, asset finance, and mortgage. I also recently completed my MBA with Imperial College London. So that I literally just finished that very recently. But that's just a very brief summary from myself. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Richard. Let me tell you one of the reasons why I went to put Richard for this session. So we were on a call, just like a random call in the office for Nigerians, actually. And then Richard spoke in that call. And I really, really liked everything Richard said on that call. I'm like, I'm going to bring Richard to my people, definitely. And so I reached out to him and was like, yeah, why not? It's going to come. So thank you very much, Richard, for joining us this afternoon.
Right. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Bukola, could you introduce yourself to everyone on the call, and let's take it from there.
Thanks, Ori. Yeah, my name is Bukola. I work as an assistant manager in PMG UK. I work as a stamp consultant. So prior before then, I work with EY Nigeria as an indirect tax consultant. I studied accounting and finance in Yaba Tech. Then later I came in for my master's in the UK, accounting and finance at Lincoln. Yeah, so I enjoy what I'm doing. Stamp tax is pretty new to me, but I kind of enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm happy to share my experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bukola. I think one of the things that I really find fascinating about Bukola's journey was the fact that Bukola actually got a job opportunity in the UK before she even finished that master's program at all. And she got it in tax. And usually people have that saying, like, you can't really get any international opportunity like that in tax just because Nigerian tax is different from UK tax or what we do in Africa, whatever. So I find that really fascinating about Bukola's journey. And that's one of the reasons why I've brought Bukola on. And Bukola is one of the mentors within our network, and she's helping to mentor a couple of people. So thank you very much, Bukola, for joining us. Happy to have you here.
Yeah, happy, no worries. Sorry.
And for those who have been following us for a long time, you will know John very well, because during the course of the summer, John was always with us. He was always ready to share. Like I probably have not met someone at John's position who is so much ready to share, ready to teach others, and so I find that really fascinating about John. But I'll still let John introduce himself to us now. John.
Thanks, Bukola. Trying to scatter my brain now. My name is John. Probably a few people have met me on a few of the other sessions. Started my career back in Deloitte Nigeria. So I was with Deloitte Nigeria until I became a senior, and I left Deloitte Nigeria and I joined EY here in the UK for a couple of years. I left EY in the UK as well, joined Deloitte here in the UK. And then I left Deloitte here in the UK and joined Standard Chartered Bank. So I'm currently a financial reporting manager at Standard Chartered Bank. I was an audit manager at Deloitte in the UK, assistant manager back at EY, then senior all the way down to, if you walk back to so you get to when I also started as well. Studied economics and statistics at University of Benin. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is about me.
Thank you very much, John. I think one of the things I really like about John is his ability to just move around and take those risks. And then just me, even though I'm pro moving around, I don't just, I just love my PwC so much. And it's just, it's just hard to leave PwC for me. So I really like that risk. And I know we've talked about it before, John. Like, how do you do these things? Like, how do you just, I don't know. But yeah, so that's John. Probably will be sharing some of those things with us during the course of the session. If anyone is interested, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. If you have any, we'll come to it later in the course of the call. And after all our speakers have been able to sort of chat to us and everything. So that's good. So we're going to just immediately go into it now. So first on our list is Richard. So Richard, you'll be giving us top tips for career starters. Look, like I say to mentors, I'm like, obviously, I say career starters. There are people that are not career starters who sort of follow me on LinkedIn and they come into my chat and are part of the network. It's fine, but I still broadly look at everybody in this whole session for career starters. And if you think back to a couple of years back when you were in your shoes, just starting off with a firm and all of that, these are the kind of people you're chatting to. What do you want them to do in 2024? Or what are your top tips for them to be able to grow their career, Richard?
Yeah, thanks, Bukola. I feel like achieving phenomenal growth, in your career, it's a combination of a lot of things. But the first thing I'd say is there has to be a very conscious effort, right? It is a conscious decision that you need to make. So that's the starting point before we even go to anything. And the fact that you guys have decided to join the call shows me that consciousness is there. So that's the key starting point. So I'd say congratulations for having that first off. Key other things you need to do, it also involves a combination of strategic planning. You have to have a mindset to want to continue to learn. So I'm going to be sharing some key tips. I have them listed down. So first on my list clearly is setting clear goals. You need to define your goals. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals, career goals? And clearly articulate what these are. If you can't write it down clearly on a paper, then it's really not defined. So have a mindset of continuous learning is the second thing I have on here. And then the third thing, which kind of speaks to what Bukola just said, is you need to have a mindset to embrace challenge. You cannot afford to not want to move. Having a career decision and taking career choices and having expecting phenomenal growth, you need to be sure that you're not shying away from challenges. You are open to opportunities, and overcoming obstacles builds that resilience in you as a person. So you have to get that in you. And then mentorship is key. Make sure you seek out mentors both within and outside your organization, your network. These are people that you want to follow, either directly or indirectly. You just want to be like them. You just want to see what mistakes have they made. You learn from their mistakes. You don't need to have passed through or gotten something. And then lastly, I'd say work-life balance. There's make sure whatever you do, you don't get so lost that you don't have a balance in your life, because what's a career if you're not alive? I mean, at the end of the day, so you cannot have a career on a sick bed. So work-life balance is also very key to keep in mind. So yeah, there's a long list, but yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that, and then I'll let the other speakers, and then if there's also any other questions, you can let me know. But like I said, always remember, career growth is a journey. It's not a destination. Consistently apply principles you learn over time, some of which I've mentioned, and these things would help contribute to your success and fulfillment in your professional life.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. I mean, just because you still got some time on your within like your timeline, and I just wanted to ask you now, if you look at your career trajectory, what were the key things that you did at some point, probably before you got a major promotion
Yeah.
or before you made a move? What was there a particular, is there a particular story that you felt, this is my story, this was something I did differently that some people may not have considered? Could you
Yeah.
share that quickly with us?
Yeah, I can. There's. I think my entire career is a story. To be fair, like if I share from my journey back in KPMG, it's a story from the day one. I say to people that it was a miracle. I even started in KPMG. To be fair, the very first day I was going for my interview, I got lost. And the person who showed me the way to the office, I had my interview for 9 a.m. The person who showed me the way to the office, guess what, was my friend from school, uni. And he just met me on the bus stop, tapped me, and I was like, Richard, where are you? What's going on? I was like, I've not seen you for 5 years, blah, blah, blah. And guess what where he was going to? He was going to KPMG. He works in KPMG. And so that's how I got to the office, basically. So, but I guess the only point that I would share, which is one milestone that I think not a lot of people do, is I moved to the UK back in 2020, right? And then I moved in as an as a senior in PwC UK. A few months after I moved here, I did not have the mindset to say, okay, I've moved to the UK, I want to just relax. You know, you've moved to just take a break, take a breather, settle in, go for vacations and travel, because that's what you would expect, because you've come, you need to rest. So the first thing I did was start looking for admission, my MBA. I started talking to schools. How I secured their MBA admission with Imperial College is still another story for another day, but I was able to secure that. The fees, don't ask me how I paid that money, but yeah, we it's another story. But I guess it all comes with the mindset. I was determined to do it, right? And I was able to push through. And today I have that in the bag. The certificate is literally there looking at me. I can look at the certificate and be happy that you've done that. So I guess a lot of it comes from determination. It will not be easy, but the end justifies the means, as they say. So it's a tough decision. That for me is one of the stories that really stands out, because I still wake up and I ask myself, how did you even do it? And it's a milestone because you build a lot of network with that experience. You have a lot of exposure. You are introduced to a lot of mindsets, boundaries that you had in your head. You see that there's no limits to what you can know and people you can meet. So yeah, that's the story that I can tell. It's a very high level summary, trust me. But yeah, maybe for those that I would meet on one-on-one, I'll give you the details. But yeah, this is a very high level summary, trust me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Richard. That's really helpful to know. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. Okay, let's go to you, Bukola. What are your own top tips for having a phenomenal growth in one's career, especially for career starters?
Okay, thank you very much. So my top tips are, just like Richard mentioned, effort. So for everybody, you need to just put in your effort. You need to be very, very intentional. And not just putting up effort like, oh, let them see what I'm doing. You need to take up challenges. Trust me, it's not going to be easy. I can't come here and tell you it's easy like ABC. You need to just be very, very intentional. You need to, and they will always hold your words. Your word is like your bond. And you should be polite. You should learn to say no sometimes so you won't be overwhelmed. So in a situation where you are taking up opportunities, you're taking up challenges, if you're stuck, it's okay to ask questions. Don't just assume, ask question, get feedback, and go back to it and do what is asked to do. So in the process of you taking up roles, don't take too much that you can't do, because they will always hold you for your word. And be intentional. Be very, very intentional in terms of making connections with people or professional colleagues. Be intentional. Know who you're talking to. If you need help, it's okay to seek for help. Have a mentor, not just for having mentor sake. There's something they call audio mentor. Don't just say, oh, this person is my mentor. You're not reaching out. You're not asking questions. You're not planning to meet with the person to even engage in a proper conversation with the person. So those things, you have to put that into factor. Another thing I would say, sometimes if you're in this meeting, don't just sit down there and say, oh, I have nothing to say. It's why they're paying me. Share your ideas, even if it's being condemned, just share your ideas and sometimes one person will look at you and pick it up and say, "Oh, you actually tried," because you never can tell where they will discuss your matter. So just be positive, then have the right attitude, because trust me, positive attitude is very, very contagious, and have a right spirit. So if you're not comfortable with something, say it politely. Don't allow your emotions to rule you. It's okay to feel bad, but don't make it too obvious. You understand? So don't make it too obvious. Sit down and ask yourself series of questions. Okay, what is it I'm not doing well? Is the person actually saying the right thing? So in the process, you could focus on your strength, know your weakness. In a situation where you don't know your strength and weakness, you could ask for feedback from people that you know they will be genuine to give you a good feedback. Ask them, what's my strength, what's my weakness. Once you know your weakness, everybody, we all have our weakness. So the ability for you to develop it is what makes you stand out. Work on your weakness, strategize. Oh, how do I want to work on my weakness? What do I need to do? Put timeline. Then try to meet up timeline sometimes, because it projects you in a way you never can tell, but they would see you as someone that's very, very serious. So not just you taking the work and you're not meeting up with timeline, because you'll be passing the wrong message. So all those things are being checked, you have the right attitude, you've put in your effort, you're intentional, and you're working, you have great enthusiasm. Those things would speak up. Progression will be very, very easy, trust me. All what I'm saying, I'm not saying it's easy, but you just have to be very, very intentional, because it will take in out of your time. You might not have time to do other social things, but trust me, it's just for a while. But once you're there, you have time for other things, and work-life balance is very, very important. You can't just be saying, "Oh, I want to work, I want to be there," and you're not resting. It will toll on your health. And if you don't have a good health, you will not deliver well at work. So all those things, you just have to put it in place. And for me, once you can put all those things in place, the sky is just your limit. The sky is your starting point. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you very much, Bukola. And I'm going to also ask you a question just around this thing you said. Was there at any point in your career where you made a major decision that changed your career for good? Did you have any situation like that, or any particular time, maybe just like I asked Richard, maybe at the point where you were trying to get a promotion or trying to get a job? What were those things, including probably your routines or things, something you think maybe another person would not necessarily have thought about? Was there a situation like that, and could you
Yeah.
share?
Yeah, I'll be honest. So I remember when I came in for my master's, I think I had that conversation with Ori. So 2 months into my master's, jokingly, I just applied. So it was even a friend that sent me the link. I said, because I said, "Madam, I'm still doing my master's. I didn't just go to Jackpot. I just needed a break." She was like, "Just apply. Let's see how smart. Apply." I said, "Okay." So she was like, I just did it reluctantly. I said, "Okay, let's see what comes out." And play. Someone called me for a chat. We had a chat, and I applied for indirect tax, because that was what I was doing in Nigeria, not even stamp tax. And we had a chat, and the person that I had the chat was like, "Oh, but you're still in school." I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Are you ready for the job?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready, but I can't resume immediately." So that goes back to you having the right answer for the right question. So I told him I'm ready, but I can't resume immediately. And I was like, "Okay, cool. We'll set you up for an interview. It's more like it's for experience." I said, "That's fine by me." So what I did was I had to go back, read tax law, read UK tax law, at least just to have an understanding. So I won't look stupid if they're asking me a question, even if they know I'm coming from Nigeria, just to have the basis that, okay, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do. And I can't read all the tax. I just have to look for something that will summarize everything. And I'm focused on indirect tax because that was my strength. So after then, I had the first interview. It went well. I had the second one, but they never asked me when I'm resuming. They in their head they thought I'm going to resume on time. So the second interview, I told the guy that I can't resume immediately, because trust me, if you're going for an interview, in as much as you can't predict these people here in the UK, there are some body language you would see, and you're like, "Oh, it seems these people there's high level, they will take me in the job." And the guy was like, "Are you available to resume next month?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that I'm doing my master's." And the person was like, "Are you sure the HR are?" I said, "Yeah, they're very, very they're aware, they're informed." I told them I can't resume immediately, but I'm ready for a job. And he was like, "When is the best time for you to resume?" I told him December. And the December was just a date in my head, because as of December, I'm still doing my master's. And I told him just December. And at the time I did the interview was around May, June. And he was like, "Are you saying 6 months from now?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, we'll get back to you." So in between, I was like, oh, it's just a week. I just want to have an idea on what the interview looks like. And they came back. The what's it called? The guy coaching was like, oh, Bukola, they needed someone that will resume immediately. Yeah, he needs to put me in the line. That if you get something better, I won't do the main interview. I'll just have a chat. I said, okay, that's fine. So he came back again with real estate. I was like, I'm not interested in real estate. I don't really know much about real estate. I said, okay, let's just see, have a chat. After a while, he ghosted me. Then he came back with stamp taxes. So I have the option of stamp taxes, real estate, but well, like the real estate is not visible. And I need to make a decision. Like, if I'm going to wait for indirect tax, I have to wait for next year. So I just have to think that stamp tax is something I don't do. But I just need to take the risk, although it will limit because I'll be more like a specialist. They're like, okay, it's just for me to read. I'm not a lawyer. So there are many loopholes I have to read. It has to do with me interpreting the law. Like, am I willing to go through that stress? At the point, I was like, okay, let me just try something new. And with my indirect tax knowledge, it's won't waste. I can still, and I took the decision, and that was it.
Interesting. Did you see? Did you see? So I got a couple of things from that, Bukola, because if you look at it closely, number one, you applied even though you were not ready, right? So I
Yeah.
see a lot of people coming into my DM on LinkedIn saying, and I'm going to just sort of talk about it from the aspect of, oh, I saw this job. Should I apply for this job? Like legit questions someone is asking me. Oh, I saw this job. Do you think I should apply? No. Apply. Like, do you get? Like, just apply. Do stuff. Like, I know I'm not the best risk taker, but I still advise it for those who are very fantastic risk takers. Take the risk. Do whatever needs to be done. But make sure that whatever you are agreeing to, whatever you're doing, is okay for the period, is appropriate for your own circumstance. Look at what Bukola said. I've seen people who legit sort of came to the UK to study. They left their study and went to find something else. So they got messed up in all of the immigration issues and all of that. So Bukola was really like, I want to get my master's. That is goal number one. If I get a job in the process, that's fine. Then she took the risk, she got the job, right? So it's really, really inspiring story there that you said. I see a lot of people not wanting to take any risk or trying to take risks, but they are not considering the other factors, or they don't even know what their number one goal is. So thank you very much, Bukola, for sharing your story
No
with us.
worries. Worries.
So, John, let's come to you. John, I know you are OG. Tell us. talk to us. What are your top tips if you that will make a typical career starter scale their careers? What do you think are your top tips?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, maybe the one thing I just wanted to quickly touch on before I was on the risk part, right? If you're going to take a risk, I think it's usually helpful to ask yourself what's the worst that can happen. Because that's usually what I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? So I always know what the worst that can happen is, or at least I have an idea of what the worst that can happen is. And then I decide, look, if this worst thing should happen, am I able to deal with it? Am I fine with, for example, when I was moving roles here, typically people who want to be safe. I was like, look, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe something happens, I'm laid off, and then I have to go back to Nigeria. And I'm like, is that really the worst thing that can happen? I don't think it's the worst thing, so I'm quite fine with that. So yeah, but I guess coming back to career tips, funny enough, some of what I would say would overlap with what Richard and Bukola have already said, because like these things like are just general principles. Like if you apply them, you should see results. So I think one of what Richard had mentioned was defining your goals, right? So for me, it's more of define what does career what does career growth mean to you, for example. So for me, I remember when I started my role at Deloitte at the time, I didn't even know funny enough, I'd never even heard of Deloitte. And I guess some people, when they start their jobs, they're probably just looking for a job. I was just looking for a job. So I never heard of Deloitte. But then I was lucky enough to get into a firm where sort of career path is defined. So if you decide that you want to become, you want to get to the top at a consulting firm, for example, you can already see what the path is like. Okay, I'm going to go from an associate to manager to this to that. But the truth is that's not what everyone's career path looks like. Not everybody gets into a job where there's a defined career path where you might be able to know what's next for me. So the question then becomes for people like that, for guys like, and even if you go into a role where you know what the next path is for you, that may not be the path you're interested in. For example, I quickly realized I'm not interested in being a partner, right? I thought I wanted to when I first joined because of the glamour of the role, but I quickly realized that this is not something that interests me, right? So you then need to define for yourself what does career growth actually mean. So if I'm going to pursue a career, this is where I want to end up, or how do you want that how do I want that to play out? And yeah, so I think the other thing is probably, I would say, which is very related to this one, is when you're defining what it is that career growth is. I know the title has phenomenal career growth, right? And so when you think about phenomenal, you want to be like, oh yeah, I want to be one of those guys who made manager in 2 years or in 3 years. Or like, that's not necessary. Look, you can aim for that, right? But I will tell you that many people who achieve like those sort of outlier accomplishments, they don't necessarily, they never didn't necessarily think that they didn't necessarily start out from the beginning thinking that they wanted to achieve that, because there's no clear path. For example, I joined a consulting firm and I'm like, in 2 years I'm going to become a manager. Hmm, really? So yeah, it's like, but then, so that's why I would say don't assume, don't look at someone else's career path and think that, look, yeah, that's what I want to do for myself. Or this guy made manager in 3 years, for example, in 2.5 years. Therefore, if I don't make manager in 3 years, it's not phenomenal career growth to me. Like, it, as long as you're progressing in your career and you are progressing at a reasonable pace, so you're not like very slow. For example, if the average time to make manager is say 5 years and you are making manager in 12 years, yeah, that's a problem, right? But if the average time to make manager is say 5 years and you're making manager in 5 years, that is phenomenal career growth. That's good career growth, right? So I think you shouldn't think about your career and try to define your career by what other people have done and say, oh, I want to this guy became CFO by the age of 30, therefore, or by the age of 29 or 28, therefore I also my goal. I mean, it's a good goal to set but it doesn't mean that if you don't become a CFO by the age of 30, for example, that, oh man, you haven't experienced. Because I remember when I first joined, I was looking at the glamour, the whole thing about being a partner. I was like, oh man, in 8 years, I will become a partner in 8 years. Because 8 years was the record to partner at the time in Deloitte. I think it still is. And I was like, I think I want to become a partner in 8 years. I'm more than 8 years down the line. I'm not a partner. So anyway, um, so so yeah, I think that's another thing you want to think about. Then I guess when you do define what it means for you, career growth, it's like, I guess you want to ask yourself things like, can you achieve it where you are? So I'm currently working for example, here right now I'm at Standard Chartered Bank. I actually know what I want to do, or I know what I expect, what the kind of position I expect to hold in 2 years from now, probably. And then I ask myself the question, I'm here at Standard Chartered Bank. Does it look feasible? Does it look likely that I will be able to do that in the time frame that I've set for myself? Um, and you want to be flexible with that as well, because even if I want to do it in 2 years, it may not look likely that it will happen in 2 years, but it could happen in 2.5. It could happen in 3, probably. And so that is not then, I'm not then going to say, okay, it's a no-brainer. It's not going to happen in 2 years. Therefore, my bag's on my back. I'm out. So you want to be able to say, look, okay, it may not happen in 2 years. Could it happen in 3? Could it happen in 2.5? Something like that. So you want to be able to look at where you are and then ask yourself, is this place, are you in the right place, or are you in a place where if I wanted to achieve this in my career, is this place going to give me or afford me the opportunity to be able to get that? If not, if the answer is yes, then I think the next, so it's like two branches, right? So if your answer is yes, then I think next question you want to ask yourself is, what are the things that you probably need to do? So now I'm here. I know I can get this goal or this aim that I'm pushing for. So, but what exactly do I need to do that will get me to that point. So some of what you might want to do at that point is you want to talk to people who have gone before you. So for example, let's say you are in a firm where maybe you're aiming to become a manager or something, and there are people who have made manager before you. You know how long it might take for you to make manager. You probably want to talk to people about, look, what potentially do I need to do to start preparing myself, because you need to prepare yourself to get into that role that you want to get into. So and I would say for me personally, what I've observed in that regard is two things that that you typically do. You want to learn as much as you can, and this is something that Richard mentioned. You want to learn as much as you can. You want to acquire all the skills that are relevant. So I think learning is in two bits, right? You can just learn what the job entails, or you can acquire skills that, so for example, I'll give you a typical example of myself. So I'm in a financial reporting role, um, but I know what I want to do is well beyond the skills that I require to do what I want to do is well beyond financial reporting. And I'm not going to get those skills from being in a classroom. I'm not going to get those skills from taking online courses. So it's pointless for me to take online courses because they are not going to give me that skill. But I know that there are certain units that people work in where these skills, if I was to work in these units, I will get those skills. So what I do, which I've been doing for the last maybe 2 3 years, is I find somebody in I find somebody in the unit where I feel like, so I'll give you a very typical example. I wanted to learn a lot about liquidity risk, and I'm like, and I know that liquidity risk, if I stay in my role, liquidity risk would never come to my table. Is there's just nothing that I'm going to do to learn to have an idea of what liquidity risk is about. So then I talked to someone in liquidity risk, made a friend in liquidity risk, started chatting to the person. After a while, we started talking about, look, potentially what's liquidity. So give me a kind of idea of what liquidity risk is about. And I was like, look, I want to be able to do one or two things in liquidity risk. And do you guys have a project that's coming up? Do you have anything? And he was like, not much. And I was like, look, okay, if there's anything that's coming up, keep me in mind and all that. So I think he forgot about that for a while. But one day, which I was in the office, and then someone was just having a call, close, just seated 2 seats away from me, and she was having a call talking about, and the person, she was the head of the liquidity risk team, and she was talking about the fact that, oh, they have this project coming up. They're really stretched. They have they're no hands and all that. And I mean, I after the call, I just walked up to her and said, I mean, it's not like I was eavesdropping on your call, but I just heard you say, and yeah, but I mean, if you, I have some spare time, because what I like to do, so and that's going to bring me to one of the other tips I will give you. I was like, I have some spare time, and so if I can get on that project, that would be fantastic for me, and I believe it will be fantastic for you as well, because you're looking for hands, right? And she was like, yeah, cool, fine. And sometimes, a lot of times, you find that people are actually willing to give you a chance, right? And so she was like, yeah, wow, that's fine. I mean, never heard anyone just walk up to me and tell me they want to do more work. So I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah. So I got on the project. I started doing a few things, and she was very interested in me just because I asked. And so she started sending me kind of slides and PowerPoints and stuff that she has used to do projects in the past. She just was sending them to me. She was like, introducing me to people. You can talk to this person, you can talk to that person, and all. And yeah, so that's one example. I've done that. There are two areas I wanted to like build up my skill, and so far I've been able to sort of get my foot in the door in those two areas while still on in my role that I'm doing. So and that's what brings me to the other thing, is like work ethic, right? Because if you don't have time on your hands, you won't be able to do some of these things, right? So for me, it's more of, I try to front load as much as I can, finish up everything that I have. Let's be frank, we actually have time. We have time if you really work with. So sometimes look, I'm overwhelmed, I'm dying. I'm like, yeah, okay. Have you been as efficient as you can be? And this is not knocking anyone. It's not like I'm also not very efficient. I I listen to a lot of YouTube music and all that and stuff like that. So like those things actually do take time of your hand. It takes away your concentration as well. So something that you could have done in 1 hour because you have something playing in the background, you probably do it in like 2 hours or 3 hours or thereabout. So what I try to do is now, which is what I've been learning over the last two years thereabout, front load as much as I can, finish as much as I can, so I have time. And then you might work a little later than you typically would. So and then in terms of work ethic as well, and this is something I've observed, particularly in when I was back in the big four firms, is like the people who are pushed forward are the people who are perceived to be working really hard. So you have to be working really hard, or at least be perceived to be working really hard. Yeah. You have to be working really hard, or at least be perceived to be working really hard, because it does work. And then again, networking. But I guess the one thing that I would say about networking is that don't take networking as a blanket statement. It's like, oh, networking. So you're just going to probably, one, you might be wasting your time, and two, you might be speaking to people and just making it obvious that you want something from them, and people really hate that. Like, you can't really approach people and just because you want them to do something. So it's like all this is finding a sponsor, then you just walk up to someone and then you are trying to make small talk with them, and somehow you are trying to make it obvious that you want them to be your sponsor. I'm like, I don't know you, so why the hell are you walking up to me and trying to, push me to be your sponsor, stuff like that. So if you're going to network with people because you genuinely want to learn something from them, and or you genuinely have something to offer them, and let whatever comes out of your networking, let it be a byproduct of. So let's not be the primary thing, that the reason I'm going up to you because I expect something from you and I want you, so I'm going to do everything. It just makes you come across as not a very sincere human being, or not a very sincere person. So the byproduct, for example, like this person I spoke to about the whole liquidity, whatever, the byproduct of that is all of the knowledge I'm getting from that. And if a role does open up, a permanent role does open up in liquidity risk, I'm most likely going to be someone that she will think about to fill that role. Now, that's not something I wanted it's not what I was like. I didn't approach her because that's what I want in the first place. But turns out it's potentially a byproduct of that, and who knows. So yeah, I think that's like so yeah, learning is not really always about, look, if learning on your job, if it's about, what's it called, if it's about online courses, programs and stuff, e-learnings, go for it. If it's not about e-learnings, learning is not always formal. So there's a lot I think informal learning sticks a lot better, in my opinion, than formal learnings. I can't remember any learning that I've ever done in my life. I don't remember what those things say now. So yeah, I think for me, I think maybe one other tip is, depending on where you are, you need to find the kind of projects that will get you noticed. So you don't want to be doing a lot of work on stupid things that nobody cares about. So if you can get yourself on things that people care about, where that if I do this and it becomes a big thing, yeah, it would someone important, and someone that makes decisions would notice. So like they're looking for someone to arrange all the boxes in the office, and because someone says, oh, put your hands up for tax, you then go and put your hands up to be the guy arranging the stores. If it's going to get you something, yeah, probably. But if nobody's going to care about who arranged the boxes in the office, then you shouldn't be the one arranging boxes in the office, because it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I think those are all my tips.
Thank you very much, John. I think John more than covered it for me. So I agree with you. See, that career enhancing role is important. And I mean, it depends on where you are, right? So it depends on your organization. You need to define what that role is. And usually, let me tell you, like, my rule of thumb, any complex work that everybody's running away from, usually people are running away from what they don't know. Now, when people run away from something that is complex, they forget that because it is complex and everybody perceives it to be complex, even if you do badly at it, people will make excuse for you, right? People will make excuse for you. So get on the complex side of things. Get on the side of things or a project that everybody seems to be interested in it. So maybe from a customer perspective, from your boss's perspective, maybe it is reported up the chain to the topmost person in your organization. That sort of thing is what you want to be involved with, such that when they're asking for progress update on it, you are kind of looped in, and then you may get the opportunity to be talking to probably the CFO or the CEO of your organization, just because it is an area where people are interested in, right? So the rule of thumb for me, if it is complex, people are running away from me, I want to put myself in the center of it, because that's what everybody is kind of interested in, and they're looking for a solver, right? Even though I may not have the answer, I am still going to be in the center of the conversation. And usually at the end of the project or whatever, people still, when they want to say who were the people who really did it, my name will be called as part of it, right? So I really agree with that, Joan. I've got a couple of tips here as well, which people may have. So I will not talk about anything anybody has really talked about in detail, just to save our time. But another one I really wanted to talk about is communication. Now, communication is in 2 parts or 3 parts or whatever. So there is the aspect of you making sure that whenever tasks are given to you, you understand it. So that you're getting the direction that is needed. You're also confirming your understanding of the task to the person that's given it to you, rather than you taking hours and hours going to town or not understanding, you're just packing it and just abandoning it, and people think you're not up to par, right? So understanding whatever task has been given to you. So going forward, this is practical. When someone says, oh, all right, just help me pull this report together, and you've never seen that type of report in your life, you don't know what it is, you can do a bit of research, but don't stay too much. You can ask them for guidance. Like, if I give you something like this, would that be fine? You can come up with a table of content and share. This is what I'm thinking. Is that fine with you? The other aspects of communication I would say to you that you need to start looking at is communicating your progress. If there is something I personally dislike, it is the fact that I don't know whether the person I'm working with is alive or not, just because they are not talking to me. Obviously, given the kind of my organization, I'll put in meetings with you. I meet with my team every day, multiple times a day anyways, so for different things, for coaching, for this, for review, for whatever. But if you're in an organization where you don't have that sort of structure, you need to create it. So for instance, someone has given you a task that will take 5 days. It takes you nothing at the end of a working day to send to them, oh, this is where I am. Just a summary. This is what you've given to me. This is where I am. This is what I think. These are the sort of issues I think may come up. I will give you another update tomorrow. I'll give you another update in 2 days. You just need to be alive, and not just be alive. Make sure the person who is your stakeholder understands that you are alive. What that means is, typically, what is running at the back of the mind of maybe your manager or your boss or whatever is this person able to do this project anyways? So for you to keep updating them, it shows them that you are kind of on top of things, so they don't really need to worry about you as such. Number 2 is, it just basically sort of shows them that you're able to lead yourself, right, to achieve whatever you need to achieve. So communication is really key. How you communicate your progress and all of that is really key. So have that back of your mind. Another thing I was just going to say is, and this happened, and I mean, I've got gazillion messages in my LinkedIn, and one key one that transcends across multiple issues that I sort out with people is the inability to speak up when required. And I don't know what the issue is, honestly, especially in meetings, right? You get into a meeting, the reason why you have been called, number 1, the reason why you have that job that you're doing is because it is believed that you have something to offer and you can help solve some important problems, right? That whether you're a starter, you are in the middle, you are at the top, there is a value you're bringing on board. Now, every time you spend doing your employer's work is expected to be value adding, and people are depending on what you have to offer. So when you get into meetings, and so for instance, someone said to me just today to say, I don't like talking. If you don't ask me, I don't say anything. Like, you are not, in my opinion, you're violating your employment contract. In my personal opinion, you're violating your employment contract. When you get into a meeting, speak up, be the second or third person to talk. You can ask, what are we discussing today? What's the agenda? You can challenge a particular agenda point. You can summarize. I used to have someone that I worked with. Whenever you attend meetings with this person has nothing to add. I am almost saying this person has nothing to offer. What this person does is, after like 5 people have finished talking, she will come in and summarize everything the 5 people have said. Once another 2 or 3 people talk, she will summarize again what he has said. Honestly, I personally thought like, okay, maybe I attended like multiple meetings with this person, and that is their strategy. This person is not a small person, no. This person is the head of a whole department. This person, I was really shocked. Like, what do you mean? Summary. No, this is what I think. And trust me, when you're trying to remember the people that were in a particular meeting, you will remember her because she's talking. I am remembering her right now because she spoke. So usually, even though it was weird, a person of that level just summarizing what people are saying, but there was still that feel of she, it's like the way we are now. If somebody on this call decides to talk, I'm coming to you, Richard. If somebody on this call decides to talk right now, even though you don't have your camera on, once you start talking, your face will pop up if you have your camera on, or whatever you have will pop up, which says, I am here, I'm present. So every time you're not talking, when you get into meetings, people are forgetting that you're alive. People are just basically forgetting about you. Richard.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very strong point. And like you said, I've also noticed this, like when you go into meetings, I feel like the higher you go in your career, in your position, the less you have to prove yourself in meetings.
Yeah.
And it is a skill that people learn while they grow in their career. But imagine if you learn that before you get to that point. So, for example, there's something that I used to do. There's a trick that I do. I don't want nobody should try this because it's my own. So what I do is, if I go into a new job, like for example, I had a meeting yesterday. It was literally the first time I'm meeting all these people, new engagement, the partner wasn't feeling well, so I had to face the client on my own. And then I went there. They started talking. I wasn't there. This is my first time. They asking questions that I have absolutely no clue. So I had obviously the assistant manager there. I had the senior manager there. I was feeling left out. I didn't understand. This is my first time. I literally just came here to tell you my name and to tell you that I'm joining the team. So how do I get into this conversation? So I sat down, started listening. What I do is this: I listened keenly to what they were saying, and I picked a point. I just listened to the conversation. I picked a point, and then when everybody had finished talking, I just asked one question based on the point that I listened. I said, "So when you say this, what do you actually mean by this? And how does that actually impact our work?" I don't actually know what I'm saying. I asked a very key question. I have the sentence of how I want to coin it. When you say this, what do you mean? And how does that impact my work? And that was a session. That took like 20 minutes of that whole meeting. Everybody started talking. And I was just nodding, thinking, feeling like the boss. Because I asked the question, and then everybody's like responding to me, giving me answers. And they were like, yeah, so Richard, do you think this is what I'm like? Yeah, I think I'll come back to you on that one. So tomorrow, if anybody thinks about that meeting, they'll be like, yeah, there was a very key question that was asked. So how did we come to that conclusion? So I feel like I got that mindset from back in the days, the first interview I did with KPMG. I don't know, for those of us that started with Big Four, right? Obviously, there's 3 stages of interviews. You have the assessment, you have the written exam, then you have the assessment center where they put all of you in a room, give you a case study, and ask all of you and some people just go all the way, start talking, just showcasing all their standard knowledge. And then I don't know how to do all of those things. I can't deal with anybody giving me IS 16, telling me paragraph 2. I don't do that. So what my friend told me was just go into that meeting. Two rules: say something and don't say nonsense. That's all. Say something, but don't say nonsense. That made me very conscious, and I've lived with that mindset all my life. And that's why in these days, the way I've adopted that in my meetings, if I meet a partner today and they're talking of something, there's a project they put me on and I have no idea what it's talking about, well, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. So if you do this, I'll just ask you one question, and that's all. I don't need to know anything. The more you explain, the more I know, and the more it feels like I'm contributing to the meeting. Meanwhile, I'm just asking questions, causing chaos in the meeting. So it's a trick, but it worked.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you very much, Richard, for sharing that. Okay, so obviously there are a couple of other points, right? I do daily posts on LinkedIn. These are part of things that I share. So if you wanted to take a look at those, it will come in really handy so that we can sort of move forward. I wanted to do your one word for 2024, but I'll pack that for now. I'll probably do it at the end. But I've got a question now for you, Richard. Now, this is coming to routines. I'm really keen about 2024. Like, this is Christmas period, right? Probably that's why we have 36 old people on this call. People are really partying, right? They are doing Dirty December and all of that, right? I personally don't want to be having calls during this time of the year. I just want to lay in bed under my duvet and have fun, right? But we are here, and then we're thinking about next year. My question is from a routine perspective, because I know, you see all these things we've said, if we don't action it, right, it's not going anywhere. There's no point, right? There's no point to all these things. But from a routine perspective, what do you think we on this call should start doing right now? What are those things you think we should start putting in place right now to prepare us for a new year where we are able to eat our timelines, deliver good quality work? Okay. Okay, deliver. Someone said something about wedding. I thought Sophia was saying today is my wedding, and I'm here. I'm like, okay. So
that's what I thought as well. I was like, that's the wildest thing I've probably heard seen here.
Okay, so what do you think we need to start doing right now that will position us for a great place for us to be in 2024?
Something I started very recently. I'll show you. One sec. I have this. I don't know if you can see it.
Gratitude jar. Yep.
So, and I'll link it back to something. The reason I have that is it helps me reflect. So before the beginning of any year, first of January or 31st of December, I'm not saying I'm spiritual or I just feel like it's a day I set aside to reflect on how far I've come and where I want to go to. And it really helped me because 1st of December is when I open so 1st of December, I have a new diary. I just write in, what do I want to achieve? What kind of goals do I feel like are achievable? Now write it in a diary. I put it in a book and I lock that book. I don't open it until the 31st of December. And guess what has always happened? Every time I go back and I open that book, I'm amazed because I ask myself, what was I thinking when I wrote this? For example, in 2020, I had written, the 1st of January 2020, I had written that I want to go to the UK and I want to do this. I was like, at this time, I didn't even have an international passport. This is how? And then the 31st of December hits you, and then you're like, wow, how did I strike this off, right? And then obviously last year I had a few things on there. So I want to graduate, I want to change jobs, I want to do this, I want to be earning this, I want to have this amount of savings. I had this at the beginning, and trust me, at the beginning of this year, I did not have any amount in my bank account because I was paying a lot of money for school fees. But it's amazing how much you tend to get encouraged when you see your own achievement, no matter how small. So my point there is that you need to always make sure you take stock of your accomplishments, your challenges. lessons you've learned. No matter how small your achievements are, please celebrate your little wins. Very, very important. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small. And then the next point I'd say is set clear goals for 2024. Obviously, write your goals down. Just make sure, don't set outrageous goals. You're not going to buy a Lamborghini. I promise you, you will not buy a Lamborghini. Don't kill yourself with pressure. Just set goals. Do not avoid setting unrealistic goals. Your goals must be smart, obviously, like specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Time bound, if you want to set short term, long term, that's on you. But I tell people, don't put yourself under too much pressure. You cannot kill yourself. But make sure you set goals, because these things help you get accountable and you're pushing. And then networking, there's a lot of things I can say here. There's networking, there's continue to get mentorship and seek feedback. This is important to me because even on the job, I like to get feedback. I'm very open to feedback. I like to give people feedback, and I like to receive feedback, because that tells me how far I've come. What are the key things? What are my blind spots? What are the things I think I'm doing well that is not seemingly coming off as being done well? And then another thing that has been flagged by John and Bukola is need to be very strategic. I think I said this in our meeting, Bukola, the last time. Look, you don't want to be that guy that is doing all the work. You are always doing all the work. I was having a call with one of my team members yesterday. I told the guy, like, anytime they want to do socials, they call you. Anytime they want to do a quiz, they call you. If I look at your feedback, I don't see any of these things coming through. Do you not think that? And then the person who doesn't even attend the social, doesn't attend the Christmas party, is getting good feedbacks and is getting all the recommendations. So I'm not saying you should not be a team player, but maybe you need to think about yourself a bit and think if this is really relevant for me. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to be very, very strategic. Like, there's a lot of project lying around. I don't want to be involved in all the projects. I just want to be involved in the project that makes me seem like I'm very important. I want my name to be known by key people. That's all. I don't need to be doing the hardest work. I just want to be involved in the little things that make you seem important, whether you are important or not. And trust me, most of the very important jobs are not hard. That's all you need to know. They are usually not hard. It's very complex because it's a gray area. So people don't know anything. So it feels like, oh, fuck, I'm not doing that one. But when you get in, and people that are actually doing it, they will not sit down there and not even try to explain it to anybody, because they know what they enjoy. So make sure you are very, very strategic in taking on projects. Don't volunteer for anything. Don't just, do that. And then lastly, I'd say, obviously, we've talked about work-life balance. Continue to network. Be very, very conscious about networking, but also be very strategic as well. You don't need to know everybody. You cannot know everybody. You do not need everybody. Don't seem desperate. I get a lot of LinkedIn messages, and this goes back to what John said. Like, I usually, when it happens to me, and I ask myself, is this what people feel when I actually go to them? Because as human beings, we can sense desperation. I can sense when you're coming to me and I know you need something and I'm not benefiting anything from you. It puts me off immediately, because this is not where I want to be. So how I choose my mentors, how I choose people I want to talk to. There are people in their career life, like, how some people have achieved a lot, they just want to give back. They're in that phase of life where they want to give back. Those people, if you go to them without having anything to give to them, they just want to invest. So they don't need anything from me. If you find those kind of people, attach yourself to them, ask them questions. They want to give. There are some people like me, I've not gotten to that point in my life yet. So, but I'm at the point where I want to see somebody that maybe I've gone through, somebody who is growing in their career. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where you are. I think I can tell you one or two things to make you not make the kind of mistakes that I made. But I need to also see you do something. So you coming back to me is also something you're giving back to me, and I'm actually giving you something. So be very calculative of how you meet people and how you network. The way and manner you approach them also matters. Some people, you know how your mentor is not somebody you wake up every morning, good morning, how was your night? God bless you. Have a lovely week. Bruh, you stress me. I'll be getting anxiety when I see your message because I just feel like, oh, I need to find something to tell this guy now, you know. So make sure you have people in your corner, but don't overdo it. Don't come off as being desperate. I don't know how else to coin that. And then to just round that up, I'll just say, remember, your journey is very unique. Your success is a continuous process. It's not a destiny. It's not you continue to succeed, and it's a process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Take your time. And then 2024 is you still have time. If you haven't started any of these things, don't feel like you've missed out on a whole lot. Life, there's a saying in Igbo, or when you wake up is when your day starts. So start now, I'd say. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard. That was really helpful. I like the marathon one, which is basically, I was talking to one of my partners about 3 weeks ago, actually, and we're just talking about me, my career, and all of that. And there was something he said that really, really got to me. And he said to me, because I told him I was uncertain about a particular move I wanted to make. And he said to me, what are you being uncertain about? Don't worry, just make the move. I mean, this is just going to be one out of many moves like that you make in a 40-year career or whatever. So just make it, if you don't like it, come back, or whatever it is you want to do. Just, So I really like that analogy, which makes a lot of sense. I guess the only other thing I wanted to add is, you know how Richard has said to you, go and write down your goals, and everybody's writing down their goals. Don't just write a goal. Have a roadmap to reach that goal. This is very, very, very important. I want to have a new job in June, right? Is your goal. There is a lot of process, application, being called for recruitment chat, writing an assessment. That's the roadmap, right? If you need to make subscriptions to be able to get job alerts, all of those things. How do you realistically get to that goal that you're looking at, right? And you need to be able to list it out. These are the things. And that will basically inform your routine. And that's where Bukola comes in, right? So Bukola, what daily routine? Things I need to do on a daily basis. Because obviously we're looking at the goal from a very large perspective, right? But on a daily basis, I'm waking up tomorrow morning now. What are the things I need to start thinking about? Tiny little habits that I need to start doing that will position me to make exploits in the new year.
Okay, thank you, Ore. Thanks, Richard. I really enjoyed your section. So basically, for me, I think productivity is kind of unique to every individual, and setting your goals to is kind of unique. You can't set up goals that are not realistic. I won't repeat what Richard has said. So for me, so if you're going to apply the goals to probably your professional work or your work, so basically, I think the first thing I will do is, if I'm resuming today in my office, I try to list out like 6 things I want to achieve for that day, and I make it very, very realistic. So if I know I can't achieve those 6 things, I don't give myself towards it. I push it to the following day. And for you to achieve all those 6 things, don't overflog it. Arrange it in order of priority in their preference. Oh, this thing is very, very important. Let me put it as number 1. Oh, this thing is number 2. So arrange it like that and follow it down the line. If you don't finish, push it to the following day, and ask yourself, oh, because I do that a lot, what have I achieved today? Have I been able to pass value? And these people paying me free money, because for me, I have conscience. If I'm not working, I'm not happy. It's not as if I like too much work, but I try to, okay, what am I giving back? And if I have much capacity, I try to use that on myself. Just like what John said, I try to push my work. It gives me more time to, okay, what do I want to do for myself? I don't need to make it obvious to people. Are you still busy? I'm busy. So if you're giving me 1 hour work, I'm giving myself 15 minutes to finish the work. So I have like 10 minutes gap to improve on myself. Because trust me, if we cut, you might not have time for yourself. So it's in between that work, you have to just create time for yourself. So in order to achieve all these I've said, you need to know what does an ideal day looks like to you. So you need to know, are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? And trust me, your morning will determine how your day will look like. Some people can prefer to go to the gym in the morning just for them to be mentally ready for work. And if you like listening to music, go ahead. Nobody will kill you. Listen to it, get prepared for work. Do what you like doing in the morning to keep you mentally ready for work. So once that is done, so you need to be flexible. Don't flog yourself. Don't beat yourself. If you make mistake, it's okay to make mistake. Just make sure that you're not making that same mistake every day because people you'll be perceived differently. Learn for your mistake and ensure that yes, once you make this mistake, it sticks and you won't make that kind of mistake again. People will appreciate it. 3, once you know that part, as I said, ensure that yes, you're meeting with the timeline. Don't let them perceive like, oh, she doesn't meet up with timeline. She's always coming with excuses. Ensure you meet up with timeline. So if they give you a work for 2 hours, if you know that within 2 hours you need more time. Before it gets to 2 hours, just send an email, a polite email. Oh, I'm stuck. I need more time, and give reasons why you need more time. So let the person be involved. So the person would even appreciate that. Oh, you don't even need for me to follow up, before you let me know that yes, this task I need more time. And the person, and just within the time you need, propose a time you feel you can meet up. Because trust me, your word is your bond. They will hold you. Go back to it, ensure you do the final thing, and be sure. That's where communication comes in. Be sure you understand what you are doing, not just wasting your own time and the reviewer's time. Be very, very sure you understand what you're doing. So in a situation, for me, if I'm being given a task to do, I send email. Can you please confirm this is my understanding about you, what you gave me? Is it in line with what you want? Please confirm. So I would end up not wasting anyone's time. And the person confirms, then I put my trail of thought, explain. The ones I'm not clear, I can put a comment. I do it very I will highlight it. And anywhere I get my reference from, I try to put it and say, okay, this is where I get all my information from. I reference it. I tell you the page. So we won't waste each other's time. And I'll send it to you. Once I can push that to you, I come and I ask after the whole project, please kindly give me feedback. Let me know where I should improve on. Let me know what I've done well. And aside from me asking you feedback, I'm also giving myself honest feedback. Oh, this is what I think I've done right. This is what I think I need to improve on. And when the person's feedback comes, I try to compare it. Oh, is it the same thing? Is it aligned? Yeah. Because you actually know the truth is, if you're doing something bad, you will know. We don't need to deceive ourselves. You would know that, oh, this thing, I'm not sure I'm getting it. So there's no point to beat around. Don't beat yourself. And all those tasks, if you know you can't, don't beat yourself. There's some days you are cranky. It's not a do or die thing. Take a break. It's okay to take a break. Take 10 minutes break. Come back to it. And if you're not a morning person, it's okay to check your meals for 2 hours, do catch up. And once it's 12 p.m., start your work. Trust me, if you're doing the right job, nobody will ask you, oh, you've not sent this work. Before you're meeting up with your timeline and you're doing the right thing, nobody will question you and say, what's happening? Why have you not sent this? Just be strategic. Know what works for you because everybody, we have our own unique traits. Then another thing, please don't let's copy people because trust me, someone else's way of life is different from what is unique to you. So people are a morning person. And some people prefer to work in the afternoon and night. So if you follow the person, trust me, if you're not careful, if you don't follow what the person is doing very well, you might fail. It's not a cause if you are not careful. So you really need to know, oh, what works for me as a person, what works with my lifestyle. So once you create your own lifestyle, you've created your routine, you could test run. I do that a lot. Especially when I started this my stamp tax I had to test run. I'm not a lawyer, so I need to be very, very, which actually helped me. I'm very detailed because every word has a meaning. So you have to test what does this thing does it even work for me? Am I really doing what I like? So I have to be honest with myself because otherwise I'll just be stuck with it and I'll just be doing the job for fun. And I have to ask her, oh, does this still work? And I feel like, oh, my interest is still in indirect tax. And I had to speak to a manager and I was like, I didn't make it look like I'm desperate. And they were like, oh, because I said, I still want to know about VAT in UK. And they were like, okay, no problem. Once you're free. And I told him, I said, I have to be smart. I said, you know what, once I have free time, I'll reach out to you. And I'm like, okay, in the long run, let me send you slides. I think I like you. I'm interested in knowing more things. He didn't see it as if I'm desperate. He see it as if I'm taking more challenges because he said nobody does that. So like, you're willing to take up more challenge. That's fine. Once we have anything and you are free, I will send. But in the meantime, this is what we do. He sent me slides. So the slide is now left for me to read about it. And I was like, if I have questions, can I come? I said yes. And I didn't let the conversation end there. I went back like after a month and I said, this is what I've read. This is some, we have a call. So what I'm doing there shows that it's not just him dumping the slide, I'm dumping the only name of I need to do. I'm giving him a sign that I really want to know this thing. This is what I've learned. Oh, what do you feel? And I'm coming with questions. So I'm trying to making him see that yes, I want to be visible. I want to be visible in his face. So he can always have, okay, let's put Bukola on the call. Let's do this. And if they introduce me, be like a stamp tax person, what is she looking for? Be like Bukola is just a sleeping member of indirect tax, which I'm okay, but they put me on projects. And so if I get an indirect tax job tomorrow, I'll be fine. I can always switch. So don't be flexible and be very, very real. Be truthful to yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, ask yourself question: what have I achieved today? What have I learned? Because and you have to keep learning. You have to learn to read new things, keep learning. Because trust me, you can't know it all, but you need to just keep learning. Then on a final note, I think what I would say is once all these things have been put in place, you have the right people in your corner, you already know, as I said, you know your strengths, you know your weakness, ask for feedback. Don't feel bad if someone is giving you a feedback. Everything cannot come the way you expect. If you know you are not okay, there are ways you can challenge your feedback. But when you are challenging your feedback, have proof. Don't make it seem like you are fighting or you're having arguments. Know the angle the person is coming from and let the person reason from where, and you guys will meet in a point. So all these things that have been put in place and you've tested on, you are okay with it. Trust me, everything boils down to you progressing. Progression will be very, very seamless. People will be asking you, what did you do? But all this in real life is not easy. You just have to be intentional, you have to put the work and you achieve your goals. I think that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Bukola. That was really good, really good. And I remember, so I mean, it depends on individuals, right? Because we're talking about routine. Before, I used to be very rigid with my routine. Like the time I go to bed, the time I wake up, rigid. I noticed that my anxiety was over the roof because every time I don't meet a particular so today I said to do this and this. If I don't get to the end of that list, I'm going to be very unhappy. I'm just going to be very anxious, And let me tell you what made it worse for me. When I started having kids, there's no, like, I don't have routine. There's no routine. My kids are my routine. They determine what my day will look like. Okay. Sometimes my boy does not sleep the whole night. Maybe he sleeps and wakes up at 1 a.m. and he decides that he wants to watch cartoon. So we're watching cartoon from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. If I watch cartoon with him from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., how am I going to be fine the next morning? And it happens multiple times. This is my real life. And I like the fact that you talk about flexibility because everybody's looking at everybody and they're like, oh, this person must have a very fantastic life. Let me tell you another practical one that happened to me. My son's school shut down. Where I used to go to the gym is a few blocks away from his school. So once I drop him off in school, I go to the gym. I feel on top of the world. I feel empowered. I get more inspiration to make posts. I mean, I'm on top of the world at that point, and this is not 9 a.m. yet. And I go back home, right? And my son's school shut down. I needed to travel because of the kind of school I wanted for him. And I needed to travel out of probably my surrounding to take him to school. Sometimes I miss my first meetings on days when I need to take him to school. So where's the time for gym? Nah, there's no time for gym. So honestly, for like a couple of months, I did not have any physical routine as to how I maintain that, and it was affecting me. So I needed to then become flexible. What are my works normal? I needed to start thinking, okay, what can I do with inside my own house that gives me that same kind of energy in my brain or in my body, right? So I really like that aspect of flexibility. What I do is look, I've been in meetings, several meetings, where people's performance are discussed. One of it is the fact that, and I'm sorry, I've moved away from being flexible with your routine. I'm onto the communication of your timelines, because usually when people give it tasks, they will say, when can you give me this task back? What a lot of people hear is, can you give me this task today? That's what a lot of people hear. Meanwhile, the person giving you that task is just asking so they can do their own project management properly, right? So you say, oh, before the end of the day, I will give you. When you know that you already have 15 things on your list, that everything has equal priority according to you, because you cannot prioritize. And this is not only for career starters. I have seen people manager grade suffer with this thing. Honestly, you cannot prioritize. You can't say, I just cannot do this now, right? So you need to have that, you need to prioritize, right? And you need to say, so for me, I've learned it over the last couple of years. So I am a staunch, or can we do this weekend? And the first answer is no, whether I have time or not. Or can we do this? Can you give me this in 5 days? My first response to you is no. Because I know that the more things I push away, the more things I'm able to do that interest me for myself, and the more time I have to be able to manage how you perceive me. So when I see people talking about people, when it comes to communication, is she never delivers anything that she commits to, just because you're saying today. When we get to the end of today, you say tomorrow. When we get to the end of tomorrow, you say tomorrow, like that. So it's a big issue. So you need to learn it. So once another trick I do is, if I say, oh, I will give this to you end of the week, which is Friday, if I think I will realistically be able to produce a piece of work for you, for my client or whatever, by Friday, which means I'll have to talk to my team, get them to do it, whatever needs to happen. And I know it's Friday. I will have 3 more working days to it. Because I cannot say if any of my team members is going to fall ill, right? I can't say. So because I promised Friday, if they fall ill, it means I have to do the work. And I'm not going to do it because it's not my work to do. Right? So if I determine that it's Friday, I will have 3 days and I will tell you I'll give it to you Wednesday next week. So if my team is fine, nobody's ill, everybody's okay, everything, and I give you on Friday, oh, you said Wednesday, but you give me on Friday. Brilliant. Okay. So that's another trick from my own perspective. And that's how I treat everything. So even sometimes when my bosses are coming back to say, oh, let's get this done by Friday, I'll be like, there's no way that is happening. Even though I know there's capacity on my team to get it done, I'm going to give room for my top performance to come in, which is I'll have 2 or 3 more days and I'll tell you, I'll give you. If it comes earlier, fantastic, but it's never going to not be delivered, if you get what I mean. So thank you very much, because that was really good. John, just going to you. What common mistakes would you advise career starters not to make in the new year?
Common mistakes, right? Well, I mean, I guess when I think about common mistakes, there are so many mistakes that people make, right? So
Yep.
I don't think I would say I know all of the mistakes that every other person has made and all of that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm probably going to draw from some of my own experiences and, what some mistakes I've seen other people make as well that I felt like
Yep.
this person could have done something different. And I think for me, one of the mistakes would be not knowing when it's time to leave.
Mm.
So, and that's from my perspective, is a personal experience, because so when I was leaving EY to Deloitte, the reason I left EY to Deloitte is because, so it's not like I felt I just wanted to leave EY. I would have preferred to just keep going at EY and all that, but at some point it felt like, look, it's about, so when you talk about taking up a lot of responsibility, and I thought, yeah, I needed to do that, and I did that enough. But you see, the one mistake I made, okay, which is probably one mistake, and then the second mistake I'll talk about not knowing when to leave. So the one mistake I made was not being very vocal about what I was doing.
Mm.
So now practically on my team, there was the expectation is that you have a senior manager, you have a manager, and then you have an assistant manager and potentially everyone underneath. And at the time, I was an assistant manager at the time, and so there was a manager at that point in time. The manager got moved to another engagement, and so I just walked up to the partner at the time and I spoke to the senior manager. I was like, look, there's no point having a manager here. I'm going to split my time between doing what the manager was doing and keep doing my job as an assistant manager as well. And if you think I'm not doing a good job, you let me know. But I can assure you that you wouldn't have any problems. And it was particularly difficult for me because it was quite a complex engagement at the time. It was something at EY, that was the first time that they had that kind of that kind of project to do. And so yeah, and it was a big learning experience. So and no complaints. I did what I had to do, everything. I got quite fantastic recommendations, got nominated for an award even. And then coming to the whole, conversations around feedback and stuff like that. And then my feedback came out and I was like, yeah, feedback was fantastic and all of that. But then, we've not been hearing about you. It's like it's the first time. So it's the first time we're hearing about what I was like. I don't understand. Like, were you guys expecting that? At every point in time, I will just comment that. But actually, yes. So if you're doing something, right? If you know that you're doing something that is significant, you need to find a way to make it obvious that you're doing something that's significant. Because if you don't make it obvious, so I'll tell you what the conclusion came to. So then I started pushing back. I was like, look, this is how complex this is. This is something that the firm hadn't done before. And I wasn't a manager, so I took this on. I had to spend extra hours learning and trying to get myself up to speed with this. I got nominated for an award because of this, and blah blah blah, all of that. And to top it all up, this is a job for a manager, and I was not a manager doing that. And then they were like, yeah, okay. So what the person actually did say to me, which was very surprising to me, was like, yeah, but maybe if you were able to, since you were able to do it and all of that, maybe we didn't need a manager in the first place. It's like, oh, wow. So it turns out that, look, at some point when you're doing some of the things that you think you're going over and above, don't do it in silence. Now, and I'm not saying you should. I don't know how best to tell you how to make it known, because I'm not. You might. You might also fall into a mistake on the other side where you just go over the top and making noise. You're not really doing anything particularly special, but you feel like you're doing something special, and then you are over the top making noise about what you shouldn't be making noise about. But I think one of the ways in hindsight, one of the things I would have done is I would have put in regular updates with people that have a say, like people that matter. So the most senior partners, because I was just doing my work. Everything was working smoothly, but nobody was observing that it's because someone was doing something right, because everyone just felt like, oh yeah, everyone is we're doing a good job and we're moving on. So I would have put regular updates with the director, with the partner, and to say, look, here is, this is what's going on, this is where we were last week, this is what's going on, these are some of the challenges. Because the main problem was nobody was seeing some of the challenges I was facing, and how these problems were getting solved. They were only seeing the end product. Like they were seeing that there are no problems anymore, and so they assumed that things were going as smoothly as they should. So you want them to understand that these are some of the key problems that you were facing, and these are some of the things that you have done. This is how you solve some of these problems. So they actually are quite aware of the scale of effort that you are putting in. That's one. And I think the other mistake I made as well was so the senior manager I was working with was someone who just liked to take control of of the whatever is going on, the whole work stream and all of that. So sometimes you might be working with someone that does not necessarily step out of the way for you to project yourself. And that was one of the things that I experienced in my book. So because if you're working with someone who doesn't step out of the way to allow you project yourself, then you have a problem. Because if no one who matters is noticing you, because someone is sort of standing in the way and sort of taking the glory for some of the work that you're doing, then that's a problem. So sometimes when people do these things, they're not doing it out of malice. Sometimes, I'm not saying that some people don't do it out of malice. Some people are just that sort kind of self-centered people, but some people just do it. They're not really aware of what they're doing. They just feel like, look, I'm the senior manager here. I'm the one running things. So you report to me, then I'll have an update call with the partner or with whoever. Now I guess some of these experiences, some of these examples will seem like it's Big Four specific, primarily because of the background that we have. But I want you to be able to like abstract away from a Big Four experience and apply it to something else wherever you are, because these things cut across many industries, right? So you have maybe the board, depending on where you are at your level, or you have senior management, and you have people. Sometimes you want to be able to get exposure to them so that they know who you are and all that, but you have someone who's always like, okay, give me all the updates and I'll go share with the senior management, and then they will come back and feed back to you. And that was the kind of situation I found myself in. And it was later on I realized that all I needed to do was just speak to the lady and say, look, I want this kinds of opportunities. So when you're having these calls, I want to join. I want to be in the conversations. We can split the, if you give an update on these areas, I would want to give an update on these areas as well. If questions come back on certain areas that I was directly responsible for, I want to be able to explain, because I can actually explain some of the issues better than you, funny enough. And so yeah, and I think that was the mistake that I made. And turned out at that point they were like, oh, because of business case and blah blah blah, we probably are not looking to promote you to manager this year. I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. And that's where I come to my point, know when to leave. And I was like, all right, so it's time for me to get the hell out. And so I started to try to look for opportunities and all that. And so and that's where all of what we've been saying, what Richard has talked about, Bukola has talked about in terms of learning. Because when it's time for you to get the hell out, if you haven't acquired all of the skills that you might struggle to leave. So you want to be at the point where you are confident that if I am leaving, there's a gap that's going to be left, and wherever I'm going is they're taking me on because there's value that I'm bringing. And that's what I did. Found myself, and it didn't take, from around just before when we started having the conversation, it didn't take a long time before I found a role, was getting what I was looking for. And at the point where I told them I was leaving, at that point they were like, oh yeah, let's have a rethink. If you turn down the other offer, we'll promote you to manager immediately and all that. I felt like, look, so I would have liked to stay back at that point, but I just felt like, look, I'd already gone too far in my conversation with wherever, so it's just not fair to the other team to leave. And then it was good for me because when I then moved to left to Deloitte at the point, I left to do something completely different that I hadn't done before. So it was a whole new world for me and so that's why today, because what I then had to do in Deloitte was a lot to do with structured finance. I'd never done anything with regards to structured finance before. And then all of the time I was in Deloitte, I was just doing a lot of work around structured finance. And that's why today my knowledge of structured finance, I would say, is really, really good because of that. So it was something completely different. So yeah, I think those kinds of mistakes, know when to move, be very and knowing when to move means you have to be very selfish, because you have to think about, look, if the firm has a reason to let you go tomorrow, they will let you go tomorrow, regardless of who you have built relationship with. Or they're not going to say, oh, John has 4 kids and 2 grandmothers that he's taking care of. The best they probably will do, maybe they will give you a soft landing and say, oh, we'll pay you 4 months salary. But if the business case is to let you go, they will let you go. So, in my opinion, if it's time for you to move, don't say, oh, I feel bad for them. If I leave now, there will be a gap to fill. Because when I was leaving EY at the time, because of it was a new engagement and all that, there was a lot of knowledge that I had acquired, and so they really wanted me to stay because they felt like, look, it would take a long time to begin to get someone else to fit into this role and all that. I thought about it for a while. I was like, look, who gives a damn? EY would always be there. You guys would always find a way. You get, but so yeah. And then of course I've talked about two of the mistakes. Whenever you're doing something that is of value, make sure that you're not doing it in silence. Make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is being noticed, and then when you have someone that you're working with who's probably not giving you an opportunity to sort of shine, make sure that you devise ways to actually, put forward what you're trying put forward. Don't be brash about it, but devise ways to sort of make sure that you are doing little things to make yourself noticed by those at the top and things like that. So yeah, I think if you do those, and I guess maybe one tip to share as well, this is not necessarily a mistake, but maybe in the last 1 year I realized that, look, learning consistently, in the sense that I set learning goals now. So I'm like, okay, before the end of the year, I want to have maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 hours of learning under my belt. And then I then go out and say, look, what kind of things do I want to learn? And then I try to sort of start pursuing those, because if you don't consciously, and I think that's probably a mistake I've made in the past, if you don't consciously pursue learning the kind of things that you want to learn, don't let your learning be dictated by, because I mean, again, this is a Big Four reference, which might not be relevant to everyone, but in a Big Four, they just dump a whole lot of e-learnings on you. You have a lot of learnings. Sometimes you don't really care about those learnings. So it's like, at the end of the year, you can actually say from a big that, look, look at my learning history, and I have had 20 or 30, 40 hours of learning. But the question is, how valuable was all of that learning? That learning was just defined for you by, some other firm. If you can help it, you can add more. But that's if you can help it, let your learning be defined by you, so that you're learning what you want to learn rather than what someone wants you to learn, because it makes more sense to them. So let it be that you're learning what you want to learn, and whatever it is that you want to learn, most likely would be something that is aligned to where you want to go, or what you want your career to be like. So yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, that's my I would say basket of mistakes.
That was a lot. That was a lot. Thank you very much, John. And I mean, I think you just said, I don't know, that's just a lot. Now, I'm just going to move from that learning upwards. One thing that I do, obviously, every day I don't get to do it because there's just so much to do, but it helps me to see it every day on my calendar, is to put something on my calendar that I call technical updates. It's just 30 minutes out of every day that I block out. If nobody is pestering my life, I get to use those 30 minutes to read anything technically involved with my work. It can be an in-brief, it can be a guidance, a regulatory guidance, it can be just about anything, or something someone has said, oh, let's read an approach, or let's read something. It can be anything work related. So I block out that time. I try to use it. I don't use it every day because of my life. It's kind of chaotic, my role. So I don't get to use it every day, but it's there. Every time I don't have anybody pestering me for that 30-minute slot, I make sure that I read something. So if you use a calendar as well, put something in. Yours can be 15 minutes, and it's so easy to read. A lot of people think reading it's so easy to read. If you put 15 minutes, I want to read this about my work, you read it. There's another thing I want to say now, and this thing, soft skills. A lot of people focus on, I want to read about, if you're in the accounting line, I want to read about accounting, about tax, about this. But a time will come in your career where you'll be required to have other skills, and your technical skills, even though they need it to be sharp, it's not going to be the number one thing they consider for you, because others that are competing for the same role like you will have almost the same level of technical competence. And for you to get to some leadership position, usually your competence is one of the least things they think about. So imagine someone who is like the leader of a big four firm, and even in Nigeria, for instance. I don't think anybody cares if his audit is top notch, because at that point, all he's doing is politics. At that point, nobody really cares about that at that point, because all the people that can do all the technical work for him are there. They are massive. They are many, right? So while now you're trying to get all your technical skills up to date, whatever, don't only look at that. There are some things you need to look at. Leadership. Go and read books on leadership. Listen, YouTube is a universe on its own. You don't even need to read. If you like listening to stuff, plug in your ears and listen and marinate yourself in content around leadership, about working with people, about negotiation, about psychology. Like, psychology is, like I feel like I have a psychology degree, because just by you talking to me, I can deduce 1,000,001 things you're trying to tell me without uttering a word. I know what your body language is saying. Even if I'm in meetings, when I'm in meetings, I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at how they're looking at, if they're looking at my forehead, if they are looking at me with their right eyes or their left eye. I can basically deduce what you're saying without you uttering a word. I can know if you are pleased with me. I can know if you're displeased with me. I don't need to wait for you to tell me. I kind of know. So that helps me channel my energy. I know on my team who I need to work on better. I know the people I need to like, and this doesn't need to be a boss. Like, even someone that is like my subordinate at work that does not enjoy my flow, like maybe they don't like the way I work. I know already just by their body language and all. So I know I need to invest some time there. So I invest time there. So you get to can read books on psychology, listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube videos or whatever. Watch things that will. Don't scroll on TikTok for 3 hours like me sometimes. You just lie down there. Hey, you just scroll. 1 a.m. you're there. 1 a.m. you're there. Instead, you can watch very business. So look, there's something I'm trying to do from 2024 when it comes to mentoring career starters. This year I've been focused on just mentoring career starters from a career perspective, but there is more to me than that. I kind of know business because every day I listen to more than an hour worth of business podcasts, like how to make money, how to build digital product. You will be surprised. It's not because I went to anywhere to learn it, because every morning once I wake up, I'm preparing my kids for school. I have between like 3 hours between when I wake up and I get them ready for school. And I just plug my ears and I'm listening to, if I tell you this, I'm listening to them. And then there's this fire within me, because it's not just career. There's some people that are on this call now. You're talking about career, but your life can literally change by moving away from career and doing business, basically. So, but if you don't listen to some people that can guide you, you will just be facing career and just let all your life be about career, because you can do much more. There is just so much more to you, right? So, I mean, reading books, listening to things, marinating yourself in content is going to really help you. There are a couple of things I wanted to say when it comes to mistakes that career starters make. One of it is pressing your phone at work, taking your phone, and you are always seen with your phone at work. You see, no matter how fantastic you are, right? Maybe you have this top boss that comes to maybe your client site or comes to your table maybe once in a year. If the 2 times it came to you in 2023, it met you pressing your phone, trust me, the only impression it has of you is you don't have work or you are less busy, or your phone has no place with you during work hours, especially if you're working in an office, because how people perceive you is very, very, very important. This thing I'm saying, it sounds a bit weird, but I've seen people being moderated because they are pressing their phone in the office. And I also had someone I worked with closely who is so carried away. The person is with us, the director is here, the senior manager is here, the manager is here, everybody is here. He's carried away. He's on Instagram. Hours. I'm not even lying to you right now. Hours. And then at some point, well, let's take a picture. There's something they call Now. I don't know which app is that. So we say, let's capture a... Please don't make that mistake in 2023 because the way people perceive you means a lot. 2-hour lunches and more. People are watching you whether you like it or not. Don't go for 2-hour lunches and come back and think, oh, nobody knows. Obviously, they're seeing you. And if you have enough things, I'm even worried for you personally, from a career perspective, if you're going for 2-hour lunch break. Some of us struggle to eat food in 15 minutes just because of the amount of things we needed to, do. It means that, let me tell you what it means. It means that even in your life, there are no meaningful things that is, getting you sort of excited to do. There are no meaningful projects. Because for you to think that, oh, you can just stray away and then just use time anyhow, and it means that you don't have something that you're really excited about that you could be working on. And it's fine that maybe, obviously, you may not have too much to do at that point. You may not have too much. Maybe you're with a firm that don't have a lot of things for you to do and all of that. Channel that energy into something else. You can even start your own business. Channel that energy into something. Instead of going for 2 hours and wasting time, channel that energy into something else. Okay, in 2024. Another thing I'm going to say is this: certifications. In 2024, if you have over 5 years, 6 years, 10 years experience as a finance person and you don't have ICANN or ACCA, honestly, I can't help you. Personally, I cannot help you because a time will come when you need to gain opportunities. But those opportunities you'll not be able to get because the people you are competing with, they already have ICANN from 100 level in the university. Those are the people that you are basically competing with. So your certification is really, really important. John.
Yeah, just one quick thing that came to my mind when you mentioned the certification thing. It's like that there's so many people that I've seen that probably never finished your certification. I was like, yeah, I just remember, look, always benchmark yourself against yourself, right? Don't, because I know someone who stopped writing ICANN or ACCA because everyone had gone so far and he was so far behind that he felt like a failure. So he felt like, look, like everyone was almost done and he probably was still in like the early stages and all of that. So yeah, I think you probably always want to benchmark yourself against yourself. It's like where was I last year or last month or last 2 months? Where am I this month? Am I better than I was last year? If you're better than you were last year, it doesn't matter where everyone else is or what other people have done, as long as you in your own space, you're moving forward. And yeah, and I would say apply to many other areas of your life as well. Financially, like don't think about what other persons are earning. You hear people saying, oh, my mates are making 1 million a month, my mates are earning this, well, some of your mates are also earning 20K. So yeah, so benchmark yourself against yourself, and yeah.
Thank you very much, John. You see, this thing that John said, it looks like, oh, it's easier said than done. Look at me, for instance. I like to be vulnerable because there's nothing to hide. I started my CFA program a long time ago. So people that started during COVID have finished their CFA program. I've been failing steady. Someone even came into my DM to say, oh, I feel so depressed. And this is a DM I responded to today, so I'm not lying. The person said, I feel depressed that and I did not write my ICANN program anymore because I failed. I'm like, you failed, so you are depressed. How can I help you? Me, I failed, I'm failing, I'm still failing. It doesn't matter. One day I'll pass. I don't care that the people that I started with, all of them are now they are CFA charter. That was my business with that. When I did ICANN, I used to fail very well. The first time I write any diet, I have to fail. It's just normal. Like the first time, I'm not one of those book smart people. The people will call like, oh, I'm seeing your profile. Your profile is, you don't know the sweat and the blood that went into that thing. I'm always failing. But there's something you can never ever catch me to, is to give your opponent. In fact, when I get a result, I've gotten so bad or so good at failing that once I get a result, like I get a CFA level 3 result, right? I'm in a meeting, I open my phone, I see the result. Oh, CFA is a very difficult endeavor. I'm continuing my meeting. That's it. And in the next 2 days, I'm paying again and I'm trying to do it again. Because I know that one day, there will be some there will be people that are not smart, are not as smart. People like me, like this, will not compete in that particular diet. I will now pass. I know that time will come. But for you to, you just need to understand yourself, move at your own pace. It's not everybody that have kids like myself that will say, hey, every day I'll read for 4 hours. It can never happen. I can't read for 4 hours in a day. Oh, it can't happen. There's too much I'm dealing with. It's not going to happen. So I will try. But if I fail, that's it. It's fine. I know where the people I started with, all of them are qualified. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, if you have that at the back of your head, know that me, your mentor, Gongo, I'm still failing. So why are you depressed because you failed an exam? It's fine. Just wake yourself up and one day is one day, that certification, you're going to get it and it's going to open doors for you. But one thing you should not do is not to write at all. Okay. All right. My place of work, I do same thing every day. Most times my work a day can be done in 2 to 3 hours. Yeah. One day I can't let me go. Yeah, one day. I mean, my can every level I'm writing like two or three times. Richard, we need to start wrapping up. You're mute.
Yeah, I'll probably also just wrap up because I had like a couple of points which I have also that's come to my mind. First off is exams. It leads to my first point here. Look, your journey is different. Like,
yeah,
I've said this thing too many times. Don't pressure yourself. Don't try to pressure yourself. Like, if you see me outside, I promise you, if you see me outside, you will never believe that this person has anything serious going on in his life. Because I feel like we tend to embody a lot of pressure on ourselves. You see people at work, they're so serious, they're working as if they stop to work, like the world will just end. Honestly, you understand yourself, you understand the pace at which you're going, and be very strategic. I like that word strategic, and I apply it in my life very, very well. So the first point I have on here is you are very, very much worthy. You know, we come on this program, we speak. It feels like, oh my God, these people, they're very lucky. How did they even do this? Honestly, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you, right? So you, wherever you are very much worthy, and if you start today, you can get to wherever you want to go to. Second point, which is a soft skill, is that some days are not always as productive as other days. Friday, for me, I hate Fridays. And to my team, Fridays are the most productive days for me because that's when they see me most. Personally, I know I don't achieve anything on Fridays because my mind is switched off. How do I make it seem productive? Fridays, I'll set up all the catch-up calls. You see me asking questions about what you've done. Even if you sent it to me to review, I'll pretend as if I've reviewed it. And I'll say, come. So when I was looking at this, I'll open it before it just farms in. At the end of the day, it's helping me because when I eventually go back to review, it's saving me a lot of time because half the time I've already discussed it with you, right? But also, I understand that Friday for me is not a very effective day if I want to do a detailed work. So I save myself the stress and the embarrassment, and I'll farms and put up a notion that I'm very much active. So please remember that, you know, some days are not very productive. And then you need to understand the timing of where you are in life, your phase of life. I would never have done an MBA if I was married, if I had kids. I would never, in my wildest dream, have aimed to do it. Either the kids would not let you even study, or the fact that because you're doing an MBA, you'll be working overtime and have to study. There's a lot of factors. Your time is not your own. Your wife or your partner contributes to your timing. Your kids have a maximum say in your life. So understand where you are in your life and take advantage of those times, right? So I'll do with that what you will. The fourth point is what John said: leave when the ovation is loudest. Like, do not fall for the trick. They do it a lot. Oh, you're so valuable. You should stay. We'll do this. Leave when the ovation is loudest. In fact, when they say that you are very valuable, that's when you should actually start leaving. Run away. Don't look back. Just close your eyes and run. Leave when the ovation is loudest. That's when you leave a lasting impression. Because if you don't leave at that time, if you make any mistake, it lasts. And then the last point is always remember, regardless of what happened, your experience is your own, is your intellectual property, can never be taken away from you. Whatever it is, wherever you are, as long as you're doing something and you've not gotten to where you want to get to, your experience is yours and yours alone. It's your intellectual property, can never be traded. It will come in handy sometime. So bear that in mind. And I think those are the few tips that I really wanted to just share from my side.
Thank you very much. We are going to call it an evening. Thank you, everybody. I know that we've got a question from Tina, and I've read it. And basically, I get what you mean. It is a tricky situation you're in. It is borderline toxic, what you're going through. So, Tina, could you come into my DM? I promise you I'll respond to you before the close of day tomorrow, and I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. It may not be appropriate to what some of the things I'm going to tell you just because this session is being recorded. So come into my DM on LinkedIn, and if you're unable to gain access, if you need me to connect with you, I'm more than happy to connect with you. But yeah, you're borderline going through something you shouldn't be going through if you ask me. But yeah, so just come into my DM. But I mean, thank you very, very much, everyone, for joining this call. I really, really do appreciate it. Bukola, thank you. John, Richard, thank you very much. And I apologize that Folake is not here. I'm just going to reach out to her to make sure everything is fine. But thank you very much. And I hope to be able to bring all these wonderful people back to you next year when we resume the event at Q2 or something like that next year. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care and good night.
Bye.